great revolution on our planet. I wrote in a very, very short time a book which is in several languages now, and I opened with a quotation from your book. Now it's the time for seeing what is happening, and we have the time for doing something. Therefore, I'm not coming here for interview or camera.
Okay.
Okay, they do it. I'm not a man who is seeking that.
Okay.
So giving respect.
Okay.
Gratitude.
Well, thank you very much.
We're doing as one of the great pioneers, and that we in the Netherlands and in Belgium and in other countries are working very close at this moment, collaborating.
Right.
And that we even have a lot of things regulated, and if it is necessary, with the vaccine. I wrote a little book for a lot of people about vaccination.
Right.
We are very close in what you have written.
Right.
And me.
Well, that's brilliant because we're at a point where this vaccine program is a line in the sand that can gather a lot of people together in mutual support and mutual interest. And this vaccination program and what's in it, as I see it, is a fundamental stepping stone of the whole agenda. If this doesn't happen, then their agenda's got a massive spanner in the works. So this is a really important time to come together and to get people to realise that the consequences of having the vaccination are far worse than the consequences of saying no under any circumstances, So, I'm with you on all that.
Do we agree if we are going to say, question of 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, that all the decisions have been taken up by us? Not in the meaning from to be passive. Even in my head is to call on civil disobedience.
That's the key.
And with our friends, we reach some millions on this one.
Non-violent, non-cooperation. Non-violent, non-cooperation, because, the number of people that are in full awareness who are perpetuating this whole agenda are a fraction of the global population, and they can only do what they do by manipulating the general population to imprison themselves and to acquiesce, thinking that they have no power not to. And when those things are withdrawn, when people realise where the real power is, then the control system must fall, because it depends on people en masse not knowing where the real power is, but seeing the top of the pyramid as where it is, instead of realising that the rest of the pyramid is holding the top up there.
Absolutely.
That's the different perspective. So what the top has to do is keep that knowledge from different sections of the pyramid, so no one actually looks up and says, hey, we're holding you up there. We don't have to. We have the power. And this is the key perception change we have to get across.
Yeah. I think also what you said and what you are writing, that we have to try to be in non-violence, is very important. It means that our better side of our spirit, our conscience, real conscience. I learned a lot of things from Buddhism and from Zen Buddhism and real Gnosticism, that we have to try to be also in compassion and in full consciousness. And if we try to do that, we have a tremendous force. We need it. We need it.
Yeah, the point I keep pressing to get across, which I'm going to really emphasise on Saturday, is the fundamental shift of self-identity, because if anything is the core of human control, it's manipulating people into a false self-identity. So they identify with their name, their body, their job, their culture, their race, their religion. And when you do that, you are, because all those are mind states, because I make a difference. I mean, it's only words, but we need, in this reality, we need words to get the left brain to understand what we're talking about. I see mind as different from consciousness. In the end, everything is consciousness, but there's different levels of it. And I see mind as like frozen consciousness, as opposed to the free-flowing infinite ocean. It's kind of frozen, and therefore sees things in terms of limitation rather than all possibility, which is the ocean, which sees things in terms of apartness instead of unity, which is the ocean. And I see mind and body as, obviously it's much more than this, but it's a very, very good analogy, and in many ways is actually literally true, as a conduit, an interface that allows consciousness to experience this reality. Just as if I'm sitting here now and I want to go on the internet, I can't just go on the internet, I need an interface, I need a conduit, which is a computer. And it all is fine if I'm experiencing the internet through the computer, but I know that I'm the computer programmer, not the computer. If I sit at that desk and I suddenly think I'm the computer, then I'm in trouble. Because now the computer, I've moved my sense of self-identity, therefore perception and point of observation, into the computer. So I'm in the world and of it in terms of the internet. And suddenly the computer's now deciding where I go and what I think of it. And what it seems to me is the way that society is structured is to pull people into this body-mind level of self-perception and observation, what I call five-sense reality, and what that does is leave us with a sense of apartness, a sense of powerlessness, and we are operating on a fraction of our potential. And for me, the big shift is from which everything else comes, is when you move your self-identity from I am David Icke, born in Leicester in 1952, to I am infinite consciousness, having an experience as David Icke, born in Leicester in 1952. And then the point of power moves from within the reality, so you're in it and of it, to I'm in it but I'm not of it. So now I can see how the dots connect within this reality. I'm not focusing on one dot because that's all I can see. And for me, I mean, what do you think? But I look at some of this area known as spiritual and New Age in various kind of expressions, and what I see is the simple made complex for no reason whatsoever except complexity for complexity's sake. And I see all these different techniques and these different things that you're supposed to go through. I've done none of them. I moved my self-identity from I am David Icke to I am infinite consciousness having an experience as David Icke, and everything shifted. Everything shifted. You know, no 3 months sitting quietly in a cave, none of that. Everything shifted. Because I was observing the world from a different place, or not that there are any places, a different point of observation. And I think that so often there are guru-type figures, not, of the self-appointed guru-type figures, who get their power from the perception people have that awakening is complex. Therefore, I need this person to help me through the complexity. When what I'm actually saying the opposite, it's actually simple, because all genius is simple. Genius is seeing the simple in the complex. You get someone in government administration who is in left brain prison mode, as I call it, and they will see complexity everywhere. Whereas someone else who's had none of the training that they've had, none of the intellectual exam passing and all the rest of it, they walk into the same situation and they'll say A to B. You don't have to go via N and K and L and W. It's simple. But we have this kind of trait where if it's simple, it can't be. It must be more difficult than that. It must be more complex than that. And when you kind of remove the skins on the onion, it gets less and less complex and more simple. The more layers of the onion you put on, that's when it gets complexity, because you've got more layers of the onion to bring into the equation of what it's all about. Get rid of them.
And at the end is emptiness, not you.
Emptiness, yeah.
If you are making the onion.
But, you know, people feel empty because in many ways they're an empty vessel. And when you let consciousness in, then the emptiness starts to disappear because you're filled with something greater than the vehicle. I was saying earlier today, I had this vision some time ago now, a couple of years maybe, I don't know, where I just got this picture in my mind of billowing energy, which I took immediately to be consciousness. And then an eye appeared in the energy. And then next was in front of the eye, a telescope appeared. And on the other end of the telescope, the Earth appeared and the universe and space and all the rest of it. And then the final thing was the telescope morphed into a human body. And it seems to me that, you know, we talk about incarnating as if we're coming into something. I don't think we come into anything. I think what happens is, I mean, when I sit at that computer and I go on the internet, I don't go into the internet. I observe the internet through the interface. And for me, what consciousness is doing is observing this reality through the interface. And what I say to people is, what we call death is putting the telescope down. That's all it is, right?
I completely agree.
And so we're never here, except with the illusion of being here through the illusory nature of the time-space construct. But when we're born, we don't come here, and when we die, we don't leave here. We've just been observing through the lens called the body all along.
Yes, absolutely. But what you are telling now is the nucleus also for me, because if you are speaking about mind control, it's only possible because we are meaning we are something or somebody. So if the big shift about you are talking, about you are speaking from the inner side from what you are, you feel the same thing. Because in the next time, the most important thing I feel is the chance we have to the great shift being.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people is educated by name, person, nama rupa, like they in India are telling. And we are thinking I am that, but we forget I, not me, am that. So, if you have written a lot of things about mind control, I agree completely. But now you are telling something very, very important that we have to learn. We are not the mind. It's only a frozen drop in the ocean of consciousness.
Exactly.
And if we realize that, not from the point of view from the ego, and not from the point of view from New Age, because it's the same, often, not always.
The New Age?
Yes, often also.
It's just another religion under different names.
And it's also the personality.
Yeah. They're all mind constructs. I was saying to someone earlier, you know, I've said this many times, that if you can put a name to what you believe, then you're in a mind construct.
Absolutely.
You know, who are you? I'm so-and-so, mind construct. What are you? I'm a New Ager, mind construct. I'm a Christian, mind construct. I'm a Buddhist, mind construct.
Absolutely.
What really are you? I am. I just am. Everything just is. The force with no name, that's what I am.
Absolutely. And it's very important because I read your publications that you make also yourself a big shift for telling that to people. That most important is conscious, to be what you are.
It was very clear to me from very early on, after I started to consciously become aware that I was on this journey. I mean, when I look back to my birth, I've been on this journey from the start, but consciously it started about 1990. And a lot of the people that are involved in this whole conspiracy research movement, which has kind of appeared over the last few years, no one wanted to know nearly 20 years ago when I was talking about this stuff. But and that's good. People are seeing this. That's good. But what they need to realise, a lot of them, is what they're researching and their own journey are fundamentally connected. And if you think you're apart from your research, you're apart from what you're doing, then you're also caught in the mind construct. You're also caught in the sense of apartness. And when I look at my conscious journey since 1990, what has happened to me personally, some of it incredibly challenging, as you know, we need to be challenged to break the programs that hold us in servitude. And what I've uncovered and written about, and as the different areas and they go deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole to understand what it's all about, my journey and that have been fundamentally connected. They move as one unit. Without this, my journey, I would never have uncovered this stuff. Never. Because I would have still been in a level of computer mode, and I would not have been able to do what I've done. Because the way I work, and have done since 1990, is, and it was a big shift for me, a big change. I moved from thinking to intuition. Of course, I still think and I still look at facts and all the rest of it, but it's the intuition that tells me, research this, read this book. Okay, you don't need to read this book anymore, you've got what you need. Go here, speak to this person, don't speak to that person, go down this channel, don't leave. All this is all the intuition. And as I follow that intuition, so the pieces in the puzzle have been handed to me. If this was getting in the way, look, I ain't going down there. I mean, look, I don't want to go down there, I want to go over here. Then I'd have gone over there, and the piece in the puzzle was there, I would never have been handed it. So, the experiences that I've had have broken down the programmed head reactions so that I now move with intuition all the time in all things. And what I found interesting is when you first go with your intuition, because your intuition is observing from a different perspective and therefore sees the whole game of life far more differently than the head, you find yourself in some challenging situations, which I did when I first started following my intuition. Still do, but I'm used to it now, wasn't then. And what the head then does, it looks at the situation you're in, and it crosses its arms and goes, see what happens when you don't follow me, when you don't listen to me. Look at what you got trouble in now. And a lot of people at this point go, yeah, I see what you're saying, and they go back into their head. But what I decided to do, it's funny, I sat one day, it must have been nearly 20 years ago, and this was happening to me. And I sat there and I said to myself, what's the worst I can do? I can completely bugger up one lifetime in this reality. And so I kept going with it. And what then happens, I mean, you must have experienced this as so many others have, is the head, the logic, observes the fact that if you follow your intuition, you get into scrapes and you get into challenges. But then amazing things start to happen, not despite following your intuition and the challenges, but because of them, and your head starts to say, hey, I can see how this works, and the two come together. And one of the great moments of my life was quite a lot of years ago now, when I kind of felt my thinking and my intuitive knowing came together, and they're not at war anymore. You know, if I think intuitively I've got to do this, I've got to see that person, I've got to go here, I've got to look at that, then the mind doesn't go, what are you doing? It goes, okay, let's go. And the war stops, and it's an amazing feeling when that happens. And you've got to experience it to realise how wonderful it is compared with what was happening before.
I recognized it. Once in my life I had an experience. I was only looking to the bottom, to the flowers. Only looking, not more. And then suddenly I disappeared. And at that moment it was possible even to die in your body. After that you realize that. After that the mind is coming back. But so profoundly, so deeply, that after this period I left and I went to the mountains. And then I realized the mountains are everywhere. So you can come back or not come back, you can go, you cannot go. There's no difference. If there is noise, you can find silence. If you think you are a person, realize what is coming through the person. So if I say gratitude to you, my gratitude is to the big force.
Exactly.
To the conscience, to the ocean of conscience.
Exactly.
That's what we are.
Yeah, exactly.
So I said, okay, I like to meet David, what's in the name, because I feel very strongly that you are not only David. It's so important that people see we are together what we are.
Exactly.
So if you tell with a very strong, profoundly spirit what was your experience, I can tell on the other way I had it and have it also. I'm not ready in the sense of, okay, we are always so much of possibilities. But that's the most important thing, to realize what we are.
See, what I get across every time I can is, for people who are new to this, is the fact that this reality is merely a frequency range which the body computer can decode. And I think it's been messed with. I mean, our range of perception used to be much greater potentially than this, and will be again when this nonsense is over. But so what we are doing is looking at a frequency range, and we can only perceive this frequency range in terms of what we call physical reality. If people, and of course, you're there, I'm here, empty space, empty space, empty space, empty space. But if you could tease out your frequency range of perception, you'd realize that the empty space is vibrating energy, which connects me to you, me to this chair, me to that water, me to the camera. Everything is one pulsating energy field, and the what we call self is merely the point within that infinite consciousness from which we're observing reality at that point. That's all it is. We are awareness. And if I'm looking through the lens of the physical body into this reality, I perceive, if I don't know better, that I am a man called David Icke, born in Leicester in 1952, and I'm an individual human having an experience. If my point of observation in the same infinite consciousness, because this is part of infinite consciousness as well, it's just in a different vibrational state and therefore level of awareness, then suddenly I'm all that is, has been, and ever will be. It's just the point from which we observe everything. And it transforms not only the way we perceive life, it transforms our ability to live life instead of letting life live us, which what most humans do. They think they're at the mercy of life because that's what we're programmed to believe. Once you realize you're not at the mercy of life, something funny happens. You're not at the mercy of life.
But don't our morals disappear then? Perhaps good and evil, if it's all one thing. I mean, some New Agers are, like Alistair Crowley says, love shall be only the law. There's only no good and evil. Do you believe in good and evil? Well, if you change your perspective.
Well, what is good and evil? It's a point of perspective.
It's a point of perspective.
A point of perspective within infinite possibility. Because infinite consciousness is infinite possibility. And so there's a point of observing reality in which you think it's okay to sacrifice children, to the gods, right? There's another point where a perception within infinite possibility where you realize that that's horrific and all the rest of it. And the difference is, what choice are you going to make on where you're perceiving reality from? And so you could say there is good and evil, because there are what we call evil things, the opposite of live, the reverse of live, and there's things that are not what we would perceive as evil. Or you could say that actually good and evil don't exist because it's just a point of perception.
let's change it, because then you can, do.
No, absolutely. I feel very strongly what David is meaning, because in our mind-controlled system, that is space and time, and in this level, all these things are happening. And of course, there is compassion and sorrow and birthing and dying, but in another vibration, in what he is meaning, emptiness. It's not only a word, it's a force, infinite consciousness. There, all the things are changing from the point of view, because we have always judges, we have always a moral. That doesn't mean that you are going to say, let it go. No, of course not. You are also, in the same time, in the level of time and space. But what he is expressing, I feel it very strong. It's something of intuition, but I feel also that there is also something more important, infinite consciousness. And you are always then asking, is it not dangerous? Dangerous means dangerous and not dangerous. That's duality. And duality is only possible in the left side or the right side. So if we make together, heaven is starting there, we are saying, and hell is starting there. No, it's starting here. That's what I feel.
It's a perception. It's total perception. And when people leave this reality, believing in heaven and hell, even when they leave the body, they can still perceive duality on certain, levels, even in a disembodied state, if their sense of perception is so programmed that that's still the point that they're observing reality from. I think what they call lost souls and all this stuff is actually a consciousness, disembodied consciousness, that is still programmed through its experience to perceive the world from a certain perspective. And if you reach this point of oneness, everything balances everything else out. You're out of the realm of duality, so there is no good and evil at that level. Because good and evil, negative and positive, right and wrong, all these things balance each other out into what I always perceive as silence and stillness. Because I went into another state of awareness in 2003 in the rainforest of Brazil. And I had this conversation, well, it wasn't a conversation, I was just listening, with this very powerful, loud female voice that talked to me for over a period of 2 nights, for 5 hours, about the nature of reality. And there were many profound things that were said. And one of them was, if it vibrates, it's illusion. End of story. If it vibrates, it's illusion. Because what you have, I'm going to talk about this on Saturday, this is the way I perceive it. People think that for something to exist, it has to do something. But infinite potential is just infinite potential. And silence contains all sound. Right? Because, okay, people say, when you listen to silence, what can you hear? And they say nothing. What they can hear is everything. Now, okay, we've got the silence, that's all possibility, or an expression of it. And then I start talking. Now I've pulled one possibility out of all possibility, and I've manifested what you might call form. And then when I stop talking, it goes back into the silence. And so this world of apparent things comes out of not everything, but everything and nothing. Because everything and nothing are the same thing. It's just all potential. And it's silent and it's still. And then as these possibilities are pulled out of the infinite potential, what we call dimensions, densities, worlds, then things start vibrating because that manifests form. And that's why the voice said to me very clearly, if it vibrates, it's illusion. It's creation. There's a difference between creation, form, and infinite possibility, infinite awareness. All that is, has been, and ever will be. That's where it comes out of, and that's where we go back to. And we'll come out of it again. There's another form of potential. We are it. But when we come into the realm of form and sound only exists in here when it's decoded, by the way, when we come into this realm, then we can get a sense of false identity, which is fine, it's an experience. But if your false identity becomes so all-encompassing that you have no awareness of your true state, that's when you can get lost, and that's when you can get into the state we're in. You know?
One thing, as David is saying, as long as there is vibration, there is duality. Even if you are saying, I'm going to listen to silence, we have always to question it. Who is listening? To what? Who is listening to what? So, in my consciousness, that is infinite consciousness, but at the same time, all the other games, all the other things. And we have the level from that's important, that's not important, that's dangerous, that's not dangerous, that's good, that's bad. It exists, absolutely. And there is also a struggle like the Bhagavad Gita. Things has happened already. But for understanding that, that's what David said in the beginning. No mind.
What I'm finding myself saying more and more and more and more, I'll talk about this on Saturday, is it doesn't matter. You know, we go through life. I have this thing of the deathbed awareness. You're on your deathbed, you've got 10 minutes to live. Look back at your life, all the things that wound you up, all the things you got angry about, all the things you got frustrated about, all the things that made your life unpleasant, and ask yourself from the perspective of 10 minutes to live within this reality, which of them matter now? Answer, none. We better open the door.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Lovely to meet you. You've got a fabulous energy.
I have a little